Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, June 29th, 2024. The fire potential impacts for the next few days include some winds today over far western Nevada and then across eastern Nevada and western Utah. And then tomorrow we'll see some increasing showers as a cool front moves through the north, bringing kind of a mix of wet and dry storms right along this southern border of Idaho with Nevada and both Utah. The storms will be on the drier side the further west you are. Then we'll also see some pretty strong winds out ahead of that little cold front. The winds will continue across the far south on Monday. We'll also have some strong winds behind the front in western and southwest Idaho on Monday. These temperatures will be cooler behind the front in Idaho, but the dry air mass coming in behind it and the lightning threat on Sunday will make this a little bit more critical of an event. And then on Monday we'll see some lingering storms in far eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, and southeast Utah. Yesterday was a fairly quiet day compared to what we've seen this week, so just some lingering storms in eastern Utah that were accompanied by a little bit of precip. Fire activity for yesterday is shown here. IA continues to be pretty active for most of the geographic area, but many of these fires are staying on the smaller side. Precipitation for the past 7 days is shown here on the left. That's the last week with this kind of pre-monsoon surge that came up into mainly the southern Great Basin, but we can see some of those values are above average in southern and southeast Utah for the past 14 days. Certainly a little bit of an earlier start to that southerly moisture, but some pretty heavy amounts in the mix there as well. Still pretty dry on average over northwest Nevada and portions of southern Idaho, and western Wyoming is also on the drier side. ERCs are shown here. They're still kind of a mixed bag between that 50th to 70th percentile in most areas due to the recent precipitation and increase in relative humidity in some areas. The values are still elevated across eastern Idaho and western Wyoming, as well as the Arizona Strip, southwest Utah, and southern Nevada. And then we have some higher values here and there. Closer look at the ERCs across southwest Idaho show the values have backed off just a bit from the maximums we saw a few days ago, and will be sitting closer to normal over the next few days. And further south over west central Utah, the values are below average for the time of year, but will be increasing over the next week as we have a high pressure ridge building into the Great Basin. This morning's satellite imagery shows kind of the little bit of moisture still in place over eastern Utah. Dry westerly flow today, and then we'll see this trough off the coast here begin to strengthen and deepen, and that will be bringing the stronger winds today and tomorrow and that little cool front on Sunday into Monday. So by late this afternoon, that low really starts to make its way inland, increasing winds across the central Great Basin. We do have high risk for a couple of those zones for winds this afternoon. Again, those winds will be strongest over the central Great Basin, gusts 30 to 35 miles an hour. We'll also have some stronger gusts along the Sierra front. Minimum relative humidities are quite low across Nevada in the single digits into western Utah, a little bit higher elsewhere. On Sunday, the low continues to track eastward, drawing a cold front through the southern part of Idaho. It's along this front that we'll see an increase for thunderstorm activity. Some of those storms will be on the dry side across the western part of the region there. But ahead of that front, the winds will continue to be very strong. Relative humidities are very low, so we do have high risk again for Sunday. A closer look at those winds show that the gusts are increasing from Saturday into Sunday, and relative humidities drop a bit. So Sunday is a more critical day there. And then we look at the precip here. We can see some precip moving into the central Idaho mountains, and then this band across southern Idaho and into far northern and northwest Nevada. These will be a little bit more fast-moving type thunderstorms, and a mix of wet and dry. So we are concerned about initial attack and the threat for large fires, mainly along this band late Sunday as it tracks through the area. And then some isolated storms in far eastern Utah. On Monday, that trough continues to move eastward, bringing some cooler temperatures to the north. This is a pretty weak cold front, so slightly cooler temperatures across the north, and winds remain strong over the far southern Great Basin. So we do have high risk for a couple of zones there. Again, on Monday, those winds shown here, very strong across the southern Utah. Gusts up to 40 miles an hour or so, even higher, 45 miles an hour there. And then precip will be still very limited, maybe just a few lingering storms right along the Idaho border and into western Wyoming. And these will be possibly earlier in the day on Monday. 3-day precip totals are shown here. A little bit of precip coming with that low, and a little bit of precip still lingering in eastern Utah. As we head into the middle of next week, things really clear out with drier air moving into the Great Basin. And that's really the pattern as a high pressure sets up just to the west here. So warming and drying area wide, getting very hot in the eastern half of the Great Basin, back up to 100 degrees in the Reno area, and warm everywhere else. That ridge, as we head into Friday, still remains centered over California and Nevada, where the heat will remain the highest, but dry everywhere. So the 7-day forecast, or the 7-day precip totals, don't show any additional precip in the extended forecast beyond what we're getting, mainly Sunday into Monday. And the extended forecast for July 6th through the 12th puts a bullseye of heat, continues to put the bullseye of heat over Southern California and Nevada, keeping the whole Great Basin very warm. Below normal precipitation over Idaho and northern Nevada. And then we'll see this monsoon signal returning, strengthening just a bit. And it looks like maybe there's a better chance for some of those storms to reach up into a little bit further northward and westward into the Great Basin. That concludes today's briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.